Hurricane Milton is posing a serious threat to Florida. U.S. officials are warning about the potentially life-threatening impacts of Hurricane Milton as it barrels towards the Florida coast. Milton is one of the most powerful storms to form in the North Atlantic in recent years. Hurricane Milton has weakened slightly but does remain a powerful Category 5 hurricane in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, threatening to flood the west coast of Florida with its historic storm surge. Almost the entire west coast of Florida is under a hurricane or tropical storm warning on Tuesday as the storm's very powerful winds swirling at 270 kilometers per hour spun towards Tampa Bay, which is one of the largest urban areas of the state. Long before Hurricane Milton lashed the Florida coast, a political battle over this massive storm has already been raging. In the final weeks of the U.S. presidential election, Hurricane Milton is now the latest political flashpoint between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Vice President Harris and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has been trading barbs as Hurricane Milton bears down on the Sunshine State and as election year politics looms over the response to severe weather conditions that has hammered swathes of the eastern coast.
I'm committed to pulling whatever levers I can to make sure that happens, but I think it would be really, really bad luck for the Biden-Harris administration to allow supplies to just be sitting in the Atlantic Ocean, just on ships that are just idling, when you have people not just here in Pinellas County, but up our entire Gulf Coast and Big Bend who need it.
People are in desperate need of support right now, and playing political games at this moment in these crisis situations, these are the height of emergency situations, is just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish, and it is about political gamesmanship instead of doing the job that you took an oath to do, which is to put the people first.
As many across the southeast struggle to dig out from Hurricane Helene, and with Florida now bracing for Hurricane Milton, Donald Trump is making the storms a flashpoint in his presidential race. The former president has seized on the devastation left by Hurricane Helene to launch a barrage of attacks, including claims that the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which has become a political football, allegedly spent disaster relief money on migrants, adding to his already inflammatory rhetoric about immigration. Across visits to storm-torn states and through social media, Donald Trump has cast Kamala Harris and the Biden administration as absent and incompetent in delivering aid, even as members of his own party in affected areas say otherwise. Following Hurricane Helene and with Hurricane Milton barreling towards Florida, Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed without any evidence that the White House is diverting disaster relief aid to unrelated migrant programs.
A lot of the money that was supposed to go to Georgia and supposed to go to North Carolina and all of the others is going and has gone already. It's been gone for people that came into the country illegally, and nobody's ever seen anything like that. That's a shame.
While FEMA does manage grants for housing and helping migrants, that is an absolute separate account and unrelated to the disaster relief funds. Donald Trump has also repeatedly criticized the Biden administration's response to Helene, including saying that the president wasn't picking up the calls and that there is an anti-Republican bias in just how President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are responding to the present crisis. Hitting back at Trump's claims, Vice President Kamala Harris has said she thinks former President Donald Trump has no empathy for others and that he continues to spread misinformation about the federal response in the wake of Hurricane Helene. Attacking Trump, Harris in an interview to ABC said, and I quote, "It's profound and it is the height of irresponsibility and frankly callousness. Lives are literally at stake right now. The idea that somebody would be playing political games for the sake of himself, but this is so consistent with Donald Trump. He puts himself before the needs of others. I fear that he really lacks empathy on a very basic level to care about the suffering of other people and then understand the role of a leader is not to beat people down, it's to lift people up, especially at a time of a crisis." Joining her was President Biden, who may be handling his last major national emergency of his term, and he has sharply condemned the spate of misinformation surrounding Hurricanes Helene and Milton. He has called those who spread such inaccurate information, quote-unquote, un-American. President Biden did not directly make a reference to Donald Trump, who has been critical about the federal response to these storms, referring broadly to others on the internet.
Donald Trump has accused both of you of ignoring the disaster.
He is lying. Let me get this straight. He's lying. And the governor told him he was lying. The governor told me he was lying. I've spoken to the governor, I spent time with him, and he told me he's lying. I don't know why he does this. And the reason I get so angry about it, I don't care about what he says about me. I care what he communicates to the people that are in need. He implies that we're not doing everything possible. We are.
Biden's condemnation is important, as he surely wants to avoid a domestic imbroglio that would also overshadow his final days in office or cause any harm to his chosen successor, Harris. The Biden administration is increasingly alarmed about misinformation around relief efforts, with multiple officials speaking about the politicization and mistrust. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is also leaving no situation to leverage for political gains. He seized on Hurricane Helene to bolster his narrative of the Biden-Harris administration as an incompetent government unable to meet the basic needs of the American people. And while politicians continue to bicker and blame each other, worried residents still reeling from Hurricane Helene are heeding evacuation orders while preparing for Hurricane Milton's massive impact. With the threat of severe flooding, high winds and flying debris, the upcoming hours are critical for all those in Milton's path.